Just two of us today?
Just two of us. Brad's in Florida. So this is the lesson he was planning on missing. And this is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I figured we'd spend some time at the end just practicing reading.
Okay.
It's usually the thing that needs the most work right now. How are you feeling with the alphabet sounding out words?
Sounding out the words is okay. The rules were a little tougher than I thought. They seemed really easy in class, and then it's like the homework was like write the rules, and I was flowing through through like doing that pretty well, the syllables and stuff.
Okay.
But then it was like, if you are learning the rules, indicate which ones apply. It's like,
okay.
That took a little bit more.
Looking back at the book.
Looking back and,
Yeah, and I tend to think that, generally speaking, it comes pretty naturally. So
Okay.
you don't need to worry too much about the rules, but they might help out down the line if you get stuck on them.
I just feel like if I don't put in the work with the basics, then it just makes everything else more difficult.
Yeah.
Kind of like anything, but really exaggerated in this language, because it's like you can get really lazy and think that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's not like Spanish for some reason. It's I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like a little bit easier almost to me. I know that sounds, but it's like a little bit easier. It doesn't. Spanish makes more sense to me. Like Spanish is like the easiest language I've ever learned to like conjugate and stuff like that. But,
really? Okay.
Yeah, I just feel like it. Like when they say like, the House of Stevens, it sounds so much better than Stephen's house. That's like my best example of why Spanish makes more sense. Oh, and then the masculine and feminine.
You're gonna enjoy when we get to some of the more complex parts of nouns and stuff.
Really, it's like
the
that.
Same. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I'm feeling okay. I mean, I'm definitely not discouraged at all. Like that's a good thing, because Spanish, the first like 3 semesters of high school, I hated it.
Okay.
And then I got into it later. Yeah, and then I've just always loved the Spanish language. But this one, I don't feel like. I think maybe kind of like you said, that we can move to Hebrew next, because you get that confidence.
Yeah.
Like I have the confidence that this isn't going to be that hard, because it's the same thing with Spanish. I'm like, if I would just sit down for a year, I could be fluent in Spanish. I can already communicate with people in Spanish that speak broken English, and I speak broken Spanish, and we can meet in the middle.
Gotcha.
It's just like just a little bit more, and I'd be there. Probably just vocabulary, actually. And then, so with this one, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just another language. Someone spoke it who was, much lower education than I was. Even, I mean, they're probably more.
There's third
same
graders
intelligence,
in
but
Greece who are learning this stuff, so I can learn it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Well, this is should be pretty simple then. There's only 2 parts that are a little bit strange or new. Everything else is pretty familiar for most people. But quick review from last week, diphthongs. I realized, near the end of last week, I corrected this as we were reading it, but I realized I was giving you the wrong sound for one of the diphthongs. For oo, I was saying ow, and that's very, very rarely is it ever ow. It's almost always oo, like in you, y-o-u.
Okay. That's how I would know it for Greek anyway. Like my cousin Vula, that's it's V-O-U-L-A.
Okay. Cool. Iota subscripts we talked about, the iota underneath the letter, and it's just something that came about as convention when the iota used to be at the end of the word, and over time they just kind of slipped it underneath the letter, and the pronunciation changed. So it's just pronounced like a regular letter without the iota underneath it. And then there's 3 accents, and I finally found a font that has the second circumflex. So acute, grave, circumflex, they don't really mean anything as far as the difference between the 3 of them. It's just letting you know where the emphasis of the word goes. This is most of what we covered last week. And I feel pretty comfortable with those things.
Yep. We're going to get to the iota subscripts later. That's just kind of more of a rule that we need to know right now for later?
Yeah, you're going to see them in, probably not next week, but the following week. They'll start showing up all over the place. So. And again, they don't mean anything. It's just, you just need to recognize them. And they're helpful in recognizing particular patterns. So
Okay.
So the things that we're covering today are inflection, case, number, gender, and declension. And that sounds like a lot. It's really not. It should all be pretty straightforward, pretty easy. To start with, there's no vocabulary because basically we're just going to encounter the vocabulary as you go. Each one of those is what needs a definition. Inflection literally just means a change in spelling. So Greek is what's called an inflected language because it changes the spelling of a word to change the meaning.
Okay.
Pretty much all languages are inflected language. All Western languages are inflected languages. So like a non-inflected language would be any of your Oriental languages that have characters for entire words, right?
Okay.
The character doesn't change. You just add an extra character for a completely different word. You just throw words up next to each other to kind of give you nuance.
Okay.
Nuance in most Western languages is through inflection, through changing the spelling. Inflection occurs when a word performs a different function or carries a different meaning. So, example, she is my wife and I love her. Okay. There's one person in mind that is described with 3 different words here. 2 that come from inflection, right? She and her. The function of she and her, and they're both second person pronouns. They're both describing somebody. Right? She is my wife and I love her. The reason that the word changes is because of the role that they play in the sentence. She is the subject of the sentence, whereas her is the object of the sentence. So the actual, like, the idea behind it, and then wife obviously is describing the same person, but as an adjective as opposed to as a pronoun. That kind of makes sense. The inflection here is between she and her, and what changed was the function it's playing, the role it's playing in the sentence.
Okay, makes sense.
Another kind of inflection that's a lot more common in English would just be like pluralization, egg to eggs, or jump to jumped to jumping. All of those are saying different things, and so you change the spelling slightly. So that's an inflection. Inflection is simply a word taking on a slight change in form to give you extra information. And Greek is a highly inflected language. Each word in Greek can be inflected about 170 different ways to give a slight different meaning. So that's
what's that compared to English?
In English, usually it's 20, 30 different ways you can think of that a word might be inflected. So.
Okay. Cool.
So this is what makes Greek hard. Inflection is what makes Greek a hard language for people to learn because there's so many different changes that a word can undergo. But once you learn the rules and you learn the patterns, it becomes pretty simple. So, cool on inflection, you know what that means? Change in spelling.
Yeah. Case.
So, definition of case is a classification for the function of a noun in a sentence. Simple way of putting this is what is the noun doing? That's its case. So in English, or all nouns have a case determined by the function of the sentence. English has 3 cases. There's the subject case, and the example here would be Bill threw the ball. The subject of this sentence is Bill. He's the one doing the action. There's the object case. Bill threw the ball. The object in this sentence is ball. Bill and ball are the 2 nouns, and so they each have a different case in a sentence. And then possession, and you just alluded to, like in Spanish, the house of Stephen, as opposed to Stephen's house. Generally speaking, in English, you show possession by doing an apostrophe S. That is Bill's ball. It's his. Both of those would be possessive nouns. So those are the 3 main cases in English. Okay. It's either subject, object, or possession. In Greek, there's 5. So 2 of them are the same, subject and object. Mm-hmm. One of them is possession, and then there's another one called the dative, which we'll get to the 5 cases next week, and we'll start breaking them down. But so just know that there are 5 cases in Greek. We'll talk about them next class. 4 of them are the ones that you actually use. The 5th one you see like a handful of times in the Bible, and it's not really even worth going over. Comfortable with the concept of case?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Number, even easier. All nouns have a number determined by the amount of things that they are describing. So singular and plural are the 2 numbers in English, and singular and plural are the 2 numbers in Greek. And that's it. Other languages sometimes have duals. Like Hebrew, there's 3 numbers. There's singular, plural, and dual when you're describing specifically 2 things.
Can you go into that? I don't want to stop you every
slide,
but that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, so like things that appear in pairs, feet, hands, eyes, ears. Yeah. Whenever you pluralize it, it goes into a special form where it's describing specifically 2.
Oh, and then it's 3 plus?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's wait. How do you put add a prefix or suffix or something?
Yeah. So Hebrew, the normal noun just has no ending.
Yeah.
The normal plural of 3 plus is the usual ending would be im.
Okay.
And then the dual ending is usually ayim. So
like Elohim.
Yeah. So Elohim would be regular plural.
That's 3.
And plural can refer to 2 or more. But if you're referring to specifically 2, then it's...
Oh, wow. So it's singular, 2 or more, and just 2 specifically.
Exactly.
How does that work out once you get used to it?
Yeah, and there are some nouns that just get pluralized in the dual form. And
man, that's super interesting.
Remember them. Yeah. So this is like the word heavens. It's a dual.
Wait, heavens is a dual as in a pair?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, there's just certain words that get pluralized as a dual, and it's because usually it's because it's referring to something that exists in reality in a pair. Yeah.
I mean, that's the sort of stuff like when you just said that. That's why I think it's so important to learn the languages for yourself.
Yeah, you learn these little sort of things that click into place that you can't even fathom when you're not reading it in the original language.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, because you do hear the people talk about like the heavens.
Yeah.
I mean, some preachers teach on it, but then it's like, wait, this guy taught the heavens differently than this guy taught the heavens.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, oh wait, which one is it? So it is 2.
Yeah, grammatically at least. So lots of people will say that doesn't matter, like it's just a convention of grammar. We got plenty of time for this lesson, so something that when Paul says he was caught up to the 3rd heaven,
yeah,
I think he's playing on the grammar.
What do you mean?
He's not talking about the first heaven. Lots of people talking about the heavens would be the sky and then the place where God lives.
Yeah.
And I think Paul's specifically, he's talking about he was caught up to the 3rd heaven, as in the highest, beyond what we comprehend of as heaven, the exact immediate presence of God. It's like a reference to the fact that heaven is always in the dual form, and he's playing on that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's something
which might not matter, other than the fact that you got to know how much in the presence of the Lord he was for this, what he's about to say, or what he just said.
It doesn't change the theology too much. It's just like trying to figure out why does he put things the way that he does. Sometimes I think it's as simple as, well, this is how grammar works, and so he's doing a play on words or something.
Right.
Anyway, so that's number. Greek, singular and plural. So everything can be formed singular or plural.
Okay.
Gender. Some nouns have a gender in English, seen most easily in pronouns: him, her, he, she, it. Most nouns in English do not have a gender, but from Spanish, all nouns are either masculine or plural. Greek has the same genders. It's got masculine, feminine, or neuter. What did I just say? Masculine or plural? Masculine or feminine? Masculine, feminine, or neuter are the three genders in English, and Greek has the same. It's not male or female; those are sexes. Genders are masculine, feminine, neuter. This goes into a pet peeve of mine about the current state of how we talk about gender. Humans don't have gender. Humans have sex. And that's all they have. Anyway.
That's funny.
That's it. People have sex. Words have gender. Gender has been a grammatical concept for the vast majority of history. It was just not until like the 60s did we start applying the idea of gender to human beings.
See, so I've heard some people speaking about that too, but I didn't really know what they were talking about on that.
Yeah.
This slide and what you just said. Now I get these
clicks.
talks. I listen to a lot of talks on the current state of the world. And like I said, I love listening to debates and stuff like that. So I've heard a few times a few different people say that. Look, this whole idea of gender was not introduced to describe a human being until the 60s.
Exactly.
And I was like, but wait, no. Like the genders in like the 1800
Yeah.
dictionary, so what do you mean it's not?
Yeah.
But now that makes
It's a
sense.
grammatical concept.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's just talking about the words. It's just describing the words. It's not describing humans at all.
The more you know.
Yeah. And declension. So this is the thing that trips people up sometimes with Greek. Declension, what does it mean? It's a recognizable pattern of inflection among nouns. So common changes that happen to like this set of nouns. Most nouns in English change to, so this would be all examples. For example, most nouns in English change to plurals by adding an S. Dog to dogs, hammer to hammers, etc., etc.
That's a declension.
Yeah. Well,
adding an S is a declension.
Well, yeah. This is kind of an example to get the concept of declension. We don't really have declensions in English.
Okay.
But it's a common pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Add an S. A sub pattern would be adding an ES when a word already ends in an S. Boss to bosses, glass to glasses. But this would all be kind of under the big umbrella declension of adding an S to make something plural.
Okay.
But then there are other ways that we make things plural in English. Sometimes we change the stem vowel, man to men, goose to geese, foot to feet. So this would be another pattern or another common declension. So there's one declension, one common pattern of changes would be add an S to make things plural. Another common pattern of changes would be change the root vowel to make it plural.
Okay, makes a lot more sense now.
Okay, so that's kind of like a declension. In Greek, you've got declensions where it's just recognizable patterns. All of these nouns change in the same way. They have the same common pattern in how they change case, how they change number.
Okay. I think I got that.
Okay. That's another thing that'll kind of click into place when you start seeing some patterns. That's basically it. That was all the content to go over.
No, I feel better now that you've...
Okay.
Yeah, that was totally worth the drive. Because I had no idea what declension was, and I was reading. I was like, what is this talking about?
Yeah, we can kind of dip into to look at some of those